"Get out of my house!" The shout echoed through that old wooden home on a terrible night. The barefoot woman held her 3 little children as her own husband threw her out. 10 years later, at the town market, their eyes met again. He, broken and aged. She, strong and dignified. But no one could have imagined what would happen when he knocked on that humble little door, asking for the unforgivable. This story will bring tears to your eyes and change the way you see forgiveness forever. In the small living room of that worn-down wooden house, the dim lamp flickered against the cracked walls. The man, filled with anger and wounded pride, pointed to the door with a harsh voice, "Get out of my house!" The woman, barefoot and with tear-filled eyes, held her little ones close as they cried, not understanding what was happening. The silence of the night was broken only by their sobs and the creak of the door opening. The weight of his words hung in the air like a death sentence. She looked at him one last time, hoping he'd change his mind, that the anger would pass like so many times before. But he turned his face away, hardening his heart. The children clung to her worn skirt, trembling with fear and cold. "Daddy, why does Mommy have to leave?" asked the youngest, only 5 years old. He didn't answer. He just repeated louder, "Get out. I don't want to see any of you here again." The door slammed shut with a bang that echoed through the silent night. Outside, she held her children tight, feeling the icy wind cut through her thin clothes. The stars seemed like silent witnesses to that cruel scene. Her bare feet touched the cold earth as she walked down the dirt road, guided only by the moonlight. Dust rose with each weary step. The children, hungry and frightened, clung to the edge of her worn skirt. "Mom, where are we going?" whispered her oldest daughter. "God will take care of us, honey," she replied, her voice choked but firm. In the distance, a dog barked into the emptiness. The night was cold, the wind biting, and her feet bled against the stones. She had no destination, only the instinct to survive and protect her children. "Mama, I'm scared," whispered her youngest son, his small hand gripping her fingers tightly. "I know, baby. Just keep walking with Mama," she said softly, though her own heart was breaking with each step. Hours passed. The children's legs grew heavy, and tears mixed with the dust on their faces. The oldest, barely 8 years old, tried to be brave for her younger siblings. "Are we going to Grandma's house?" she asked hopefully. The woman's throat tightened. Her mother had passed away 2 years ago, and there was nowhere left to go, no family who would take them in. No friends who could help a woman thrown out in the middle of the night with 3 small children. "We'll find somewhere safe," she promised, though she had no idea where. A truck rumbled past, its headlights briefly illuminating their desperate figures before disappearing into the darkness. The driver didn't stop. Nobody stopped. By dawn, they had walked nearly 5 miles. The children could barely stand. Their bare feet were cut and swollen. Hunger gnawed at their empty stomachs. Finally, she saw a small church at the edge of town. The old wooden building stood quiet in the morning light, its white paint peeling but its doors welcoming. "Come on, children. Let's rest here," she said, leading them to the church steps. As they huddled together on the cold concrete, she closed her eyes and prayed silently, "Lord, please show us the way. Give me strength to protect these innocent souls." Little did she know that painful journey would lead her toward a future of courage and resilience she never imagined possible. With the help of kind neighbors, she found shelter in a run-down shack, its walls full of cracks that let in the wind and dust. She worked in the fields from sunrise to sunset, her hands blistered and her back bent. The children, still small, helped carry water and firewood. Some days they went hungry, sharing a thin bowl of soup. Neighbors whispered, "She was thrown out. Now she lives on handouts." She pretended not to hear, though the words burned deep inside. Mrs. Henderson, the church secretary, had been the first to offer help. "There's an old cabin behind the Miller farm," she'd said. "It's not much, but it's better than sleeping under the stars." The cabin was barely standing. Wind whistled through gaps in the wooden walls. Rain leaked through the rusted tin roof, but it was theirs and they were grateful. Every morning before dawn, she walked 3 miles to work in the cotton fields. Her hands, once soft, became rough and scarred. Her back ached constantly from bending over crops under the scorching sun. "Mama, why can't we go home?" her youngest asked one evening, watching her bandage her bleeding fingers. "This is our home now, sweetheart," she whispered, trying to keep her voice steady. The children learned to be resourceful. 8-year-old Sarah collected kindling. 6-year-old Tommy carried water from the well. Little Emma, only 5, helped sort the vegetables kind neighbors sometimes brought. When winter came, they huddled together for warmth. Some nights there was only bread and water for dinner. The children never complained, but she saw the hunger in their eyes. At night, despite her exhaustion, she knelt with her children and prayed, "God will sustain us." But even in her prayers, she still wondered if he ever missed them, if he ever regretted those harsh words that had torn their family apart forever. The weight of survival was crushing, but somehow they endured. Meanwhile, he stayed in the big house. He worked hard, but the walls felt colder each day. The bed was empty, the dinner table silent. He told himself he had done the right thing. But at night, the ghosts of longing came. The laughter of his children running through the yard, the smell of his wife's cooking. The silence became unbearable. Robert sat in his leather chair, staring at the family photo on the mantel. Sarah's bright smile, Tommy's gap-toothed grin, little Emma's chubby cheeks. He'd turn the picture face down, then pick it up again minutes later. "They'll come crawling back," he muttered to himself. "She'll realize she can't make it without me." Days turned into weeks. The house grew dusty. Dishes piled up in the sink. His clothes went unwashed. He ate cold sandwiches alone at the dining room table that once buzzed with family chatter. His business partners noticed his appearance declining. "You look tired, Robert. Everything all right at home?" they'd ask. "Fine." "Everything's fine," he'd snap, straightening his wrinkled tie. But it wasn't fine. The house echoed with emptiness. He'd catch himself setting 4 plates instead of 1. He'd hear phantom footsteps on the stairs, children's voices calling, "Daddy!" from rooms that remained vacant. Sleep became his enemy. In the darkness, memories haunted him. Emma climbing onto his lap for bedtime stories, Tommy showing him drawings from school, Sarah helping her mother in the kitchen, learning to bake cookies. He'd built this house with his own hands, dreaming of filling it with love and laughter. Now it felt like a tomb. "I did what any man would do," he told his reflection in the bathroom mirror, but his own eyes accused him. The neighbors stopped waving. Word had spread through town about what he'd done. At the grocery store, conversations would stop when he walked by. Though he tried to hide it, life had begun to collect the debt of pride, and the payment was becoming more expensive than he'd ever imagined. 10 years passed. The children grew strong, hardened by life. Their mother, though aged, carried herself with grace and dignity. She taught them faith and hard work, to always pray, and never repay evil with evil. Every wrinkle on her face told a story of endurance. Sarah, now 18, worked at the local diner while attending night school. Her hands, like her mother's, had grown rough from labor, but her spirit remained gentle. "Education is the key to a better life," her mother would say, and Sarah believed it. Tommy, 16, had grown tall and strong from years of farm work. He helped support the family by fixing cars after school. Though he rarely spoke of his father, anger sometimes flickered in his young eyes. Little Emma, now 15, had blossomed into a beautiful young woman with her mother's kind heart. She sang in the church choir and helped teach Sunday school to younger children. Their mother had aged beyond her years. Grey streaked her once dark hair, and deep lines mapped the struggles on her face. But her faith had only grown stronger through the trials. "Why don't you ever speak badly about him?" Sarah asked one evening as they sat on their small porch. "Bitterness is a poison you drink hoping someone else will suffer," she replied quietly. "I won't let his choices destroy what's left of our hearts." The children had learned to survive without luxury. They patched their clothes, grew their own vegetables, and found joy in simple things. Church services on Sunday, family dinners of beans and cornbread, evenings spent reading together by lamplight. Yet despite their closeness, there were moments when the absence felt overwhelming. Birthdays without a father's presence, graduations he'd never witness, Tommy's first job, Sarah's acceptance to college, Emma's first solo in church, all celebrated without the man who should have been proudest. But despite her strength, there remained an open wound that only forgiveness could heal, though none of them could imagine how that healing might come. At the town's Saturday market, among fruit stands and the sweet scent of lemonade, their eyes met. He, older and frail, wore the weight of time and regret. She, steady and mature, carried a basket beside her nearly grown children. The world seemed to pause. The silence between them was heavy. Their hearts raced. Robert had aged terribly. His once proud shoulders now stooped, and his hair had turned completely grey. The expensive clothes he used to wear had been replaced by simple, worn garments. His hands shook slightly as he reached for an apple from the vendor's stand. She saw him first. After 10 years, she'd recognized that silhouette anywhere, though it was now bent with what looked like the weight of the world. Her breath caught in her throat. Sarah noticed her mother's sudden stillness. "Mom, what's wrong?" Following her mother's gaze, Sarah's eyes found the man who had haunted her childhood memories. Tommy tensed beside her, his jaw clenching. Emma stepped closer to her mother protectively. "Is that?" Tommy whispered, his voice filled with a mixture of anger and confusion. Their mother nodded silently, unable to find words. Robert felt their stares and slowly turned. When his eyes met those of his former wife, time seemed to collapse. 10 years melted away, and for a moment they were back in that little wooden house before everything fell apart. He saw his children, tall, strong, beautiful, standing like guardians around their mother. They looked at him with the eyes of strangers. No recognition of love, only wariness and pain. His lips moved as if to speak, but no words came. What could he say? How do you greet the family you destroyed with your own pride and anger? The market bustled around them, but their small corner of the world had become an island of crushing silence. Vendors called their wares, children laughed, but all they could hear was the thundering of their own hearts. Yet that quiet, uneasy moment was only a sign of what was still to come, a reckoning that would test the very limits of forgiveness and redemption. Back in his solitude, he began to feel the true cost of his choices. His cattle were gone, his harvest failed, and friends had drifted away. Illness came knocking, leaving him weak and bedridden. There, in the silence and frailty, he understood. Wealth meant nothing without family. The pride that once held him up now crushed him. His trembling hands wrote on a scrap of paper, "I need to ask for forgiveness." The encounter at the market had shattered what remained of Robert's defenses. Seeing his children, grown, strong, protective of their mother, had been like a knife through his heart. They didn't even recognize him as their father. He was just a stranger who had hurt their family. Back in his empty house, the walls seemed to close in on him. The business he'd worked so hard to build had crumbled. Bad decisions, poor investments, and his inability to focus had cost him everything. The bank had foreclosed on most of his land. The few remaining cattle had been sold to pay debts. His health, too, had begun to fail. Chest pains woke him at night, and a persistent cough left him exhausted. Doctor visits he couldn't afford revealed what he'd feared. His heart was giving out, weakened by years of stress and loneliness. Neighbors who once respected him now whispered behind his back. "Pride goeth before a fall," old Mrs. Patterson had said loud enough for him to hear at the grocery store. That man threw away the best thing he ever had. Lying in his bed, staring at the water stains on the ceiling, Robert faced the devastating truth. Everything he'd thought mattered, money, status, being right, had turned to dust. The children he'd thrown out had grown up strong and kind without him. The wife he'd cast aside had raised them with grace and dignity. His trembling fingers picked up a pencil, and on the back of an old envelope he wrote with shaking letters, "I need to ask for forgiveness." But real forgiveness would only come in front of the children, where shame could no longer be hidden and pride would finally die. He made his way to the humble little house. The setting sun painted the cracked walls gold. The children stood in the doorway. Suddenly, the man dropped to his knees, tears streaming down his weathered face. His trembling voice broke the silence. "Please forgive me. I was wrong. I threw you out of my home, but it was myself I condemned. Today, I beg for mercy in front of my children." The young men looked at one another, hardly believing what they were seeing. The woman, standing tall, took a deep breath, feeling the full weight of the moment. Robert had spent 3 days gathering the courage to make this journey. Each step toward their modest home had felt like walking through fire. His legs, weakened by illness, could barely carry him the 2 miles from town. When he arrived, the family was finishing their simple dinner on the small porch. Sarah was reading to Emma from an old book. Tommy was fixing a broken chair. Their mother was mending clothes by lamplight. The picture of peace and contentment stopped him cold. "Sir, can we help you?" Sarah asked politely, not recognizing the broken man before them. That's when Robert's composure shattered completely. 10 years of pride, anger, and regret poured out as he collapsed to his knees in the dirt. "I'm your father," he sobbed. "I'm the coward who threw you out into the cold night. I'm the selfish man who chose pride over love." Tommy shot to his feet, his fists clenched. You have some nerve coming here." "Tommy, wait," their mother said quietly, her voice steady despite the shock. Please, Robert continued, his voice breaking. I lost everything, trying to prove I was right. But I was wrong about everything that mattered. I threw away the only treasure I ever had. I don't deserve forgiveness, but I'm begging for it anyway. Emma stepped forward, tears in her young eyes. Mama, is he really? Their mother nodded slowly, her own heart racing. But her answer would decide their fate forever. Her heart cried out with memories of pain, cold nights, hunger, humiliation. But then she looked at her children and remembered what she had always taught them. Forgive to be free. The son's eyes glistening, whispered, Mom, he's our father. What should we do? The burden of that decision didn't fall only on her. It belonged to the whole family. The silence before her answer was the heaviest of all. Would the past be buried or live on forever? She stood there, looking down at the broken man who had once been her husband. Memories flooded her mind like a violent storm. That terrible night when he'd thrown them out. The blistering cold as they walked barefoot down that dirt road. Sarah crying from hunger. Tommy asking why Daddy didn't love them anymore. Emma, so small, not understanding why they couldn't go home. Years of backbreaking work in the fields. Nights when she'd cried herself to sleep, wondering how she'd feed her children the next day. The shame of accepting charity. The whispers and stares from neighbors who saw them as failures. But she also remembered the lessons she'd taught her children through it all. Hatred only hurts the one who carries it, she'd told them. We forgive because God forgave us first. Tommy's jaw was tight with anger. Mom, he doesn't deserve forgiveness. Look what he put us through. Sarah wiped tears from her eyes. But he's still our father, isn't he? Emma, the youngest, knelt down beside Robert. Daddy, you look sick. Are you okay? Her innocent compassion broke something open in the air around them. Their mother closed her eyes, feeling the weight of 10 years pressing down on her shoulders. She thought of all the prayers she'd prayed, begging God to soften Robert's heart. All the nights she'd wondered if he was safe, if he was sorry, if he missed them. Children, she said softly, this decision will shape who we become. Do we choose to be people who hold on to pain, or people who choose mercy? The evening breeze rustled through the trees as the family stood at the crossroads, between their painful past and an uncertain future. With tears in her eyes, she reached out her hand and said softly, I forgive you, not for your sake, but because I've learned from God that only forgiveness can set us free. Our lives are different now, but hatred has no place here anymore. He broke down in sobs, embracing his children as they wept together. The weight of 10 long years finally lifted. Though the family would never return to what it once was, they found a new path forward. The words hung in the evening air like a prayer answered. Robert looked up through his tears, hardly believing what he'd heard. Sarah stepped forward first, her young face wet with tears. Daddy, she whispered, the words strange on her lips after so many years. Tommy stood rigid, his arms crossed, but tears streamed down his cheeks. The anger he'd carried for so long began to crack like ice in spring. Emma, with the pure heart of youth, wrapped her small arms around her father's neck. I'm so sorry, Robert sobbed. I'm so sorry. I lost everything because I was too proud to admit I was wrong. Their mother watched as her children made their own choices about forgiveness. She couldn't force their hearts to heal, but she could show them the way. We can't go backward, she said gently. Too much has happened, but maybe we can find a way to move forward together. Robert nodded, understanding. He had no right to expect his old life back. The beautiful house was gone, his wealth was gone, his position in the community was gone. But perhaps something new could grow from the ashes of what he'd destroyed. In the weeks that followed, Robert moved into a small room above the hardware store in town. He helped Tommy with car repairs when his health allowed. He attended Sarah's graduation, sitting in the back row. He listened to Emma sing in the church choir, pride and regret warring in his heart. The healing was slow and sometimes painful, but for the first time in 10 years, they were a family again, different, scarred, but bound by something stronger than blood, the choice to forgive. And this story doesn't end here. For every time it's told, it reminds us that forgiveness is the key that can unlock even the most wounded hearts.